the market because as the shareholders will vote. No. Profit drives everything to the right. You can't stop it, right? And so now you're caught in this nasty little contradiction. Because if you leave the jobs here, in a for-profit system, we have to exploit Washington workers, right? Remember, you're just taking that bit off that top when you're making those hammers, right? Either Washington workers are being paid less than the full value of their labor, so they can't buy the things that they make, or we ship it overseas and we exploit somebody else, and now we don't have any jobs. And so as long as you have that for-profit system where you have to make money, not in terms of the actual goods, but that profit margin for those corporate owners, you're going to end up with that same problem, that antagonism between the producer and the consumer. I need to make money. I can't afford to buy your product. Whoa. Excuse me. All right. Citizen ownership, without the network production element, just makes you a collective. You're really a big collective, but you have that exact same problem. Who do you exploit? Yourself or someone in Indonesia? Right? And finally, you say, oh, okay, so network production, great idea. Can't we just use that to tell, Tyco not to make Godzilla toys? Right? No, not quite. Businesses, as long as they're owned by individuals, they don't have to listen to you. They listen to their shareholders. Their shareholders will say, make the Godzilla toys, they'll make us lots of money. That one is totally wrong. But most of the time they say use palm oil and child labor chocolate chips. I want to introduce you to a couple terms. Actually, I don't know. Have you guys heard of capital flight and capital strike? Yeah? Capital flight is called outsourcing. Right? And this is when businesses can't make enough money wherever you are, and so they go overseas where wages and environmental laws don't exist. They can pay people whatever and pump as much as they want, anything they want into the atmosphere. They flee, just like white people from the inner city, to places where they can make a lot more money. Right? Capital strike is just what it says. It's a strike. Just like workers strike when they're not being paid enough to work, in theory. Right? Businesses strike when they can't make enough profits to stay open. And so this is called layoffs. Right? We need to fire 10,000 people so that we can increase productivity.
And businesses do that within the United States.
Yeah, great point. Boeing outsources to Kentucky. Right? Kentucky is a lot cheaper to produce things there. So most of their airplane parts made in America are not made in Washington. They're assembled in Washington, they're made in some plant in Kentucky. And I learned that from my first coming twice removed, so good for him. As long as you have that privately owned element, where you have individuals making the decisions that's good for them, you can't stop it. They're going to do what's good for them. What's good for them is to make a ton of money. And if you won't give it to them, they're leaving or they're striking. But they're not going to do what's good for you. And so it's got to be all three. It's got to be the network production. It's got to be, along with that, citizen ownership to keep them accountable. And it's got to be a guaranteed income through the negative income tax to make sure that we actually can have the things that we need. Yes?
And the government can't afford
this. The negative income tax?
Yes.
The government can't afford it if it's market prices, right? Because now imagine you're a business owner, right? And you're making, widgets, and you sell 100 widgets a week, and because frankly people can't afford it anymore, and they get this big boost of income from the government. You're gonna raise prices on widgets because they can pay more for it now, right? That won't bring prices down. It's going to bring prices up. Prices rise to whatever level people can pay. Gasoline, great example. We have to buy gasoline. Those prices ain't coming down. It's not a choice. They will go up until we go broke buying gas, and we'll still be buying gas because we got to go to work. As long as you're making a profit off of selling your goods, you're going to raise those prices as much as you can. Right? This is why you can't just start an NIT. That won't fix the problem. Because ultimately, the people in poverty now will end up in poverty again. They'll just be spending a lot more physical dollars to do it, but they won't be getting enough goods and services. If you remove the profit element from it, then now we can actually price things at their actual value. And we won't have businesses trying to get the government to just send us more money by raising prices. Yes?
So with corporations, would there no longer be private owners, and instead, would it be there a corporate accountability board that
you're the owner.
Production?
Under citizen ownership, you're the owner. And we're all the owner. we're the stockholders of all these, say, Washington, right? If we institute citizen ownership in Washington, Boeing stockholders are now citizens of Washington. And we're the ones who make these decisions.
Because we direct the corporate accountability boards, which direct production. And
yeah, we elect corporate accountability boards who hire people to work to run these businesses. So it's still privately managed. Let's keep that clear, right?
Okay.
We're not, the government isn't managing it, right? Individual people, like you and me, will work just like they work in corporations now and do the job that they're paid for. And so I can't remember where, but there's a question about incentive way back when. The question of incentive, is it you? Yeah. The question of incentive is a great one. Because right now, none of us will ever own private property, and frankly, none of us are ever going to own enough stock to make a difference. I mean, in terms of like electing the board. You're going to own like 1/10 of a million of a percent, and nobody cares about you. Now, it might be good for you. It might, help your IRA go up and secure your retirement. But ultimately, you don't have a say in production, right? And so the incentive for individual people to work, even if you have stock options in your company, is not that, ooh, I'm doing what's good for the company. It's, if I reach this level each year, I get a bonus. I love bonus. Bonus is basically the root of incentive as far as I'm concerned. That if you pay someone a minimum wage, they'll do the minimum job. And they'll slack off whenever they can, they'll sit on their thumbs. If you pay someone a bonus to reach a certain level, they'll work their butt off to reach that level, even if the bonus isn't actually as good as the work that they put in. Right? It's this weird psychological twist. So you know what? Bonus. What are you working for? You're working for a bonus. And so all those guys that are privately managing these citizen-owned companies, they'll still work. They're not going to go, oh, screw this. I want to be a capitalist again. We're still paying them. We're still sending them paychecks. They don't care what they're working for. You think Phil Knight cares what Nike makes? Right? He cares that he's making money. If I took over Nike tomorrow and said, your job now is to plant flowers all around the world. If you plant 10 million flowers in the next 6 months, I'm going to give you a $40 million bonus. He will plant those flowers. He will plant them post-haste because he wants his bonus. They don't care. They don't care who they work for. They work for us now. As long as we sign their paychecks through the corporate accountability boards, they will work. So I'm not worried about incentive, and I ain't worried about any of that, because as long as private management is accountable to the people, right? And we say your bonus now is to not use child labor chocolate and keep the price down, right? If you bring down the price of the cookies and not use palm oil and child labor chocolate, if you can, $2 million in it for you, they will find a way. Oh my God, they will find a way. Who here would not find a way for $2 million? All of y'all would find a way, right? And so there are things that you can do to bring this about. And when I show this, we showed this at MLK, and this sounded a little crazy at the time. It sounds a lot less crazy now, because all of us are suffering from this, right? As the dollar plummets, everything we buy becomes more expensive, especially gasoline, right? We're all suffering because of this. So you know what? Forget the dollar. We don't need it. Money is a fiction. Money is grease. Money is this motivation in our head to do things. In theory, all of us could show up at work tomorrow and say, you don't have to pay me, I'm just going to do my job. With the understanding that when I walk into the grocery store, I can take the things that I need and not get charged for it for the same reason. That everyone in the economy is just going to do their job because we know everyone else will do their job. Now, that won't really happen because then you get free riders and crazy things like that. But we can say we don't need a dollar. Let's get a local currency. Let's call it, say, pine, because of Western Washington pine. And we can have the individual cents called needles, and then we have the $100 pine bill called a pine cone, right? Question?
No, I understand. There's fourth corner exchange.
Yes, I was just about to bring that up.
And I buy my groceries from Terragannica once a month
with the time out.
Yeah.
This is an awesome. Everyone either Google Time Dollars or go to Fourth Corner Exchange. Most amazing thing. There's actually people with a local currency, and this is what's really crazy. It's totally legal. It's totally legal, right? Because legal tender is what a dollar is, and that just means that if someone tries to pay you in a dollar, you have to accept it. So if you tried to buy groceries with a dollar, they couldn't go, I want time dollars. Federal law says you have to accept legal tender. But you can print up whatever. Like, if you want to pay me monopoly money, and I accept it, that's fine. There's ain't nothing, pay me whatever. If you want to pay me in a little Irish jig, and I choose to accept payment of an Irish jig, that's fine. So we can totally make our own currency. And it keeps that value local, because time dollars, not accepted in Colorado, not accepted in Fred Meyer,